coffee down. Coffee's for closers only. Oh, have I got your attention now?
What's up?
What's up?
What's going on?
Guys,
There we go.
I'm trying to figure out how to get this thing to work. There we go. There it is. Nice.
What's happening?
All right, guys, welcome back. Another episode of Coffee with Closers Live. You want to just jump in here or what? Oh, hey, buddy.
Hello.
Welcome, man.
What's going on? Traveling all the way from the other side of the screen. Exactly. Crazy.
I love it. Don, good morning, my man. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning.
How's the weather in your neck of the woods?
Oh yeah. Well, since I'm sitting right across the room from you, it's about the same as where you're at.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, guys, welcome back to another episode of Coffee with Closers Live. We have a special guest today, Rafael Cortez. Thanks for coming on, my man.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah, so we're all actually together right now in a conference here in Tampa, Florida. It's a conference called Family Reunion. It's real estate. What is it? Influencers or coaches? Kind of a mix.
It's in the space of coaching and influencers, and I mean we do talk about traditional real estate stuff, but it's mostly on the back end, systems of things.
Exactly.
But it all connects, right?
Yeah, very cool group.
Support too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Very cool group. And
Dave's going in and out.
I get the opportunity to come down here and network with a lot of these guys. We're going in and out.
Yeah.
I think it's because of the internet that we're dealing with here.
You ain't paid the bill, have you?
Yeah, this is the one. That's right, Matt. This is the one where everyone has the pick with vanilla ice. So they're obviously using that to help promote the event here. But there's a lot of people here.
Yeah.
There's like maybe 200 people or more, maybe.
Right now, I think today's probably the biggest day.
The biggest day. So
it's been packed.
Maybe even
20 people.
Yeah, maybe 200 plus actually. But yeah, we have a really good group, which is awesome, guys. So on today's episode, we really want to just learn a little bit more about Rafael and some of the systems. You were telling me a little bit last night when we were having some cocktails and eating dinner about some of the systems, and you're also one of the coaches over at Wholesale Inc.
Right.
So a little bit about what you've been working on, and let's dive into some of these systems.
First off, thank you so much for the invite. I appreciate it, man. And I have this big hustle, right? I think we all need hustle to get going, and that's getting starting off in such a good as state. We have to start off with that hustle mentality. However, it's not sustainable in the long run. There comes a point where the hustle is not going to get there, type of thing, right? So one thing that, for example, that I am a huge advocate of is to start thinking systematically. Start thinking business instead of hustle. And that's really the freedom is going to be in the systems. And it's not that I spend my home, all that stuff. It's just that because I do respect the importance of systems and I apply those in my business, I'm able to drop my day-to-day in the business and step away. I mean, I've been gone from the company at this point. It's been 2 weeks, a couple of different conferences. Next week, I'm going to be traveling to Costa Rica. That's another week I'm off. But the company doesn't skip a beat. I'm running that thing on 90-minute meetings because the systems are in place. And when I'm talking about systems, I mean, you don't have to be super complicated. It's of a fairly easy to understand, type of blueprint, right? And I'll use the same context of wholesaling. Is that what mainly the audience is?
Yeah, just really just anything real estate related.
Okay. So this. You can take this and then apply it to your business and what it looks like from your end. It may be, but understand that there's different stages from the beginning or the inception of a deal to the point where you actually get paid. One of them, right? We have to source leads. We have to. That's common sense. You can't do anything if you don't source leads. And what that looks like, depending on your industry or whatever you're doing, it's maybe different, right? Maybe cold calling or the SMS. We use those as our backbones.
Can't hear us? Oh, is it? Are you connected to the internet? Are you connected to the internet, the local internet here? Well, then here, you stay here. You sit and I'll go over there because you're connected. So no change really. Here, don't use that though because it'll interfere. I think I need to head over this way.
Now you're back on.
Conference
All right,
fun.
cool. I am
This is
back
my guy
on.
right here.
So I was talking for half an hour, and I guess
Can't hear?
nothing.
Here, sit with me. Come over here.
Are we good? Carry on. All right, so I'm going to follow Don's lead here.
Yeah, no, we're good.
What I was
Carry on.
saying, what I was saying, guys, is it's you got to have a systematic approach to your business. That's what's going to give you the freedom, the ability to step away, and then the whole thing doesn't fall apart. And that's huge. And I know, for example, that you practice this, same type of process, Don. But in my system, or at least in my companies, the way that I run it, right, I break it down into 6 steps. The first one is going to be sourcing. You understand that sourcing and actually selling and closing, it's 2 different things, right? It's marketing and advertising for any traditional business. But when you're sourcing deals, what that looks like may be different. It may be PPC, it may be cold calling, maybe SMS, a combination of all of them together. But you're sourcing the leads. Basically, at this point, understand that what's happening is that you're gauging for interest, right? You're plowing through the thousands of records that we have to get some type of interest. Somebody raises their hand, then they move on over to the next stage, which is conversion. So we have sourcing. The step 2, the second stage is conversion. That's where you pre-qualify the leads, and now you're putting together this almost like an assembly line of how the whole model works. And I'll circle back around and emphasize why that's so important. But during the conversion stage, if you're doing wholesaling, we have, for example, 4 things that we focus in, right? And you can take this across to traditional real estate sales, lease up, whatever you're doing. But it's condition of the property, motivation, timeline, and price. Super basic stuff. It's not rocket science. But 3 out of those means that we now have a prospect. So we're not just
3 out of 4?
sending. Yeah, 3 out of 4.
You're saying 3. Okay.
Yeah, 3 out of 4 means that we have a prospect. Now, when we have a prospect, we send it over to the next step, which is acquisitions. Otherwise, they stay on that second step, right? Until they get dropped, they get converted, or it's a follow-up. So three outcomes really. But when you have 3 out of 4 on the pre-qualifying, they go over to acquisitions, and that's where the magic happens. We start negotiating deals, we start talking numbers, we dive deeper to find out what the problem is, what the real solution that we can bring to the table is, and go into it with a solution-based mentality. Now, from that point, the next thing is going to be dispositions. So we're at the 4th stage of a deal, dispositions. All right, you come in, you do your dispo, marketing, and we have a 10-step process that we repeat a couple of times for each one of the deals. So a lot of us, it's hardly ever any of our deals fall through the cracks and they don't sell, just because we have a very aggressive dispo process. And we actually come in and then pre-qualify our buyers. We have a very close-knit relationship with our A-list buyers. So that happens in the dispo process, which is the 4th stage. On the 5th one, and this is, most people stop, right? After the dispo, people get paid, they get the checks, they walk, around with that picture, and then what else can I do? Where's the next deal? What else can I hit? What you do after that point is you measure, okay, what gave me this deal? That's where you start looking at your KPIs. There's a handful of key performance indicators and metrics that you look at to understand how that deal came to you, what happened throughout that deal, what could have done better, and that's the final stage is improvement. So you actually sit down and break it down. We break every single deal down on a weekly basis. So I meet with my team 90 minutes a week on Tuesdays, and we put everything on whiteboard. If we have anything that pops up that there was an issue with, or we had hiccups, we could have done more money on this, we left money on the table because of this and that. That's where we actually break it down. And then improve from there. But it's a six piece machine, right? Sourcing, converting, acquisitions, dispositions, measuring, and improvement. Like that's a 6-step process. Now the cool thing when you have a process like that, and the details within each one of those steps can vary, but when you have a process like that, and somebody quits, I see it time and time again. Somebody hires, they get their first hire, and it's an acquisitions guy. Well, the acquisitions guy is doing the cold calling. He's doing the pre-qualifying. He's also doing the negotiation. And when that person leaves, you lose half of the business. Half of your business is gone. I mean, that's how you get yourself into trouble. But if you break it down and you segment it and just understand that it's different hats, right? Different roles. So if you break it down like that, you're able to plug people into it a lot easier. So you're going to train specifically for lead gen, and that's that's one piece of training. You can actually start automating the trainings, which that's what we've done in my business, and build the specifically for those for those particular stages of the business. But that's how a system runs, right? You're running this whole machine, and you can step away from it and it doesn't fall apart. Like right now, people are doing what they're supposed to be doing back in my market, which is Phoenix. And it's a good way to have something, make it predictable, to a degree. So I mean, essentially, when you're talking about systems, that's really how it breaks down. The details and under each one of those is, they're different. But it's very, very important to just at least have the awareness that that's how an actual business works.
Yeah, absolutely. How many people do you have on your team? Can you explain to us a little bit about what the team looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a huge. I mean, we don't have 100 people in the wholesaling business. We do we do wholesaling and fix and flip on Pulse Capital. That's the name of that. So it's I have 3 cold callers dialing just their eyes out or ears out. 3 cold callers. I have 1 in-house lead manager. The 3 cold callers are hired. They're coming in from a third party because the attrition with cold callers is it's high. Usually people come in, they'll stay in that cold calling role for a few months, and then they move on to something else, VAs and whatnot. So what I found out is we were training and training and training and training. People were leaving just because the actual telemarketing position is not. I mean, nobody wants to stay there for years. It's not a career. You know what I mean? So we decided to get around that. We hire out the cold calling. Again, the only thing they do there is gauge for interest. If they're interested and they want to talk about an offer, like that's all they do. Then they go to my lead manager and get pre-qualified. So 3 cold callers that are doing that. I have a lead manager that deals with all the leads that come in. She pre-qualifies them and turns them into prospects. And once they go into the prospect stage, they go to acquisitions. I have 3 acquisition guys right now. So it's
So you
3
have a
cold
lead.
callers.
So in office, you have a lead manager and 3 acquisitions guys. I mean, your cold
Yep.
callers, I would imagine, are virtual, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
and then from on the dispo side, I have a dispositions manager and a transaction coordinator that helps them out. And I have one. This is one role that's very important to me. It's perhaps the most important role at all because it keeps me out of it. It's my director of operations. Director of operations. He runs the ship. Everybody reports to him. I have my conversations with him on Tuesdays. Him and I break down the scorecard. We go over the KPIs and all that stuff on a one-to-one meeting, just me and him. And then we have this section where I come in and then I talk to the whole team.
Wow, that's awesome. So you're spending
Yeah.
90 minutes a week in basically your
Yeah.
flipping business, right?
Yeah.
How many
So
minutes a week are you spending, Gavin? About 90? That's pretty impressive, guys. Holy cow. Yeah. Don, how about you, brother?
Oh, right now I'm probably a little bit more 90 minutes a week because we're in a rebuild phase. But usually I have a 30-minute meeting, and then I'll spend maybe another hour or 2 a week here and there. So
that's why we're all in this room.
That's right.
that's why,
right.
yeah.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. I love it, man. That's awesome.
I want to say real quick as well. Obviously, Raphael, I was in Phoenix. I used to live there. And when I got started, you were kind of dominating the acquisition side because you used to work with Sean Terry. And I remember when we were all fighting over houses constantly, all turning up to the same meetings. This guy was constantly closing.
He was closing them out.
Yeah.
So Gavin didn't like it when he would go up and see Raphael. That's hilarious.
Business, I'm going elsewhere.
Yeah.
About closers, I mean, just talk about that. Like, how are you in a competitive market? You weren't saying don't sell with them guys, come with me. You were building that rapport, right? The relationship with the sellers to be able to get these under contract.
One thing, man, that I think was my competitive advantage and I talk about this all the time. It's understanding behavioral tendencies. Everybody communicates differently, man. And I think you and I, well, yesterday we were talking about something like this, you and I, just on the sidelines here in the hallways. But it's when you understand how people communicate, when you understand how people process information, you know when to push, you know when to pull back. For example, if you're face to face with somebody, and you can keep it simple, right? You don't have to get super complicated or get a master's degree in psychology and whatnot. I mean, just understand the basics of DISC, which is it's actually part of the training that I give my lead managers and my acquisitions people. I give them behavioral tendency training just so they can understand how to adapt to those conversations. And I actually have a full script. If you guys want it, we can give it to your people. I'll give you guys a link to it, and it's a full script on negotiating the deals, on the acquisition, on the sourcing, and all that stuff. And I have the first page is the breakdown of understanding behavioral tendencies, understanding DISC at a very simple, like super easy to understand approach. But anyways, it was that. It's when you're talking to somebody who's, for example, a driver, right? They're gonna have certain reactions. The tonality, it's gonna get more aggressive. It's gonna go higher. Body language tells you a lot. I know now most of the stuff that's happening over the phone, but you can still catch the pitch, right? You can catch the pitch and the speed of the way that people are talking to you, and understand that if I say $50,000 and something happens, right? I mean, for example, if I'm across the table with a seller, and this used to happen all the time, and I would drop a low anchor number, they would push back from the table, they would close off their arms, do something. I mean, something that's guarding, and that's gonna tell me it's a subconscious response. So when you see that kind of, when you see that kind of stuff, you know that, okay, what I'm pushing on right now, if it's a personal question or something, and they close off, I know they're not comfortable with it. So what am I going to do?
Right.
I'm gonna retract and pull back a little bit from that and find another way to get around it. So most of my negotiations were not, boiler room style. I mean, it was mostly more like navigating around the problems, the issues, so I could uncover more and then really become like that go-to person for that seller. Also, one of the things that always has to be done if you're looking at closing is come in with a solution based mentality, right? And it sounds cliche, but if you have somebody, this is it. If we have a seller that we know they're going to benefit a lot more from doing it for sale by owner, and it's doable, the property doesn't need much, and that's really what they want to do. Well, we don't lie to them and tell them, listen, it's like I'm your best shot. Like if I truly honestly believe that their best shot is to put it up on the MLS, that's going to be the recommendation. But we come in with the consulting based type of approach, and you become their go-to person. Like that's what happens when you're
that
their
right?
go-to person. Yeah, they're gonna trust you, they're gonna believe you because you're acting in good faith and given resources. One thing that I would always do, like when somebody came back at me with the oh, you know what, I can list it myself or I can sell it myself and make a lot more money. You're completely right. And you know what, if you go to Zillow and follow this link, these two, click this button right here, it's going to take you to this page where you can actually put it up by yourself, and it's going to push it up as a for sale by owner. Like that's huge in value to somebody who doesn't know that exists, right?
Yep,
So
absolutely.
now what happens? I'm on their team. I'm on their side. So um, between a combination of that and follow up, I mean, it's deals left and right, man. Deals left
I
and right.
think the key takeaways there is understanding the person, right? Reading the person is
You
really important.
say that again.
Sorry, I know
No, you're good.
Yeah, the key takeaway is reading the person, right? Gavin's what you're saying, and that's the tough part though. Is that's something that you can't always teach. Like that's a talent I have with acquisitions, is being able to read body language. And now it's over the phone. You realize like pace of conversation, tonality on the phone is the same thing.
Yeah.
So ultimately, at the end of the day, um, how do you teach that? And that's one of the things that I've been always kind of working through, is like, how do you teach somebody to read that? And really what you're looking for in the person you're hiring is somebody that's going to Monday morning quarterback their conversations. They're going to listen to their own recording. They're going to think through, should I have said this? Should I have done that? You're looking for somebody that's going to analyze every interaction they have, because that's where they're going to pick that skill up. The reason why
Yep.
I can read the way I do, and I'm assuming the reason why you can read the way you do, is because after every seller interaction, we'd sit in the car and we beat the hell out of that conversation
Oh yeah.
until we got to a point where it became instinct, muscle memory. and so you're looking. That's the employee you want, is somebody that has that drive to always want to improve.
Yeah, active learning, man. Active learning. This lesson, I used to work for the fire department, and I learned it early on from this one. He's still a good friend of mine, but we responded to this one call out in the sand dunes. The helicopter came in, and they took the patient because we couldn't access it. It was in the middle of the desert, and it was this whole, like, it was probably one of the biggest scenes that I was in. And there was a lot of shit happening, right? And so we managed to get through it. We flew out the patient, made it to the hospital. The guy lived and whatnot. And then we're getting back in the ambulance. And I think I'm 20 years old at the time or something. We get back in the ambulance. We get back to the station, and like I start cranking the stereo out. Like just put the stereo on, and then I get back into my, okay, cool, just automatic mode, right? And he turns it off. He looks at me, and this guy's only 2 years older than I am. Turns it off, looks at me, he goes, no, 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 let's break that down. What could we have done better? Like, we have to be conscious about what just happened because we need to improve on it. And he dropped that golden nugget on me when I was 20. And like it stuck. It's active learning. It's what it is. You come in and then you break it down. You realize, okay, this, when I said this, they push back. Or when I said this, even though I was doubtful, it actually landed. I know that happened to me when I started dropping like low anchor points, low anchor offers. It's never the price, right? It's never the real offer, but it's a low anchor. So you begin with a conversation, a point, and yeah, but stuff like that, man. Being aware that there's always an improvement process going on. And you're completely right, Don. It's a soft skill. There's things that we can come in and look for to gauge personalities. For example, a um, a super simple way to kind of, and I'll give you guys 4 pointers here. But if you're looking at somebody who's a driver, for example, Don's a driver. The tonality is going to be strict. It's going to be dynamic, type of communication, and volume goes up and goes down. It's not monotone. It's not boring, and it's objective. It's always like, you know there's an intention behind the stuff that's being talked when you're speaking to a driver. It has nothing to do with IQ. It's just, there's an intention to that conversation. People who are interactives, they're more dynamic, but the intention is not as strong. It's more of a relationship building type of conversation, right? So drivers are task oriented. High influencers, high eyes, are people oriented. They're still loud and dynamic, but the type of the conversation is a bit different. When you're talking to people who are supportives or steadies, you're going to have more of a monotone conversation. It's not as dynamic. It's very relational. And when you're talking to people who are analytic, it's almost a cold, type of conversation and tonality, and that's very monotone. I mean, it's those are just kind of, a few pointers on how to pick those behavioral patterns up. But when you know how to talk to each one of those, you start to speak their language. I mean, it's crazy, I know, but it is a different type of language. We all process information differently.
Very cool. So Matt Smith asked a question here. Yeah.
Sorry, we're on mute.
There's a little technical difficulties here today, boys, so we're making it work. I love it.
Let's go.
All right, man. So, hey, Raphael, thank you so much for coming on, brother. Again, we're really grateful for your time. We appreciate all these gold nuggets. Very, very, very cool. Matt Smith's got a question. Wow, I'm working 70 hours right now. How long does it take to build a team to work only, a few hours a week? It's kind of a loaded question, but Raphael, Go ahead and give it a go.
Start with one. Look at the highest. All right, 80-20 principle, right? 20% of the stuff that we do actually give us a result. The other 80, it's going to be tasky stuff. It's going to be stuff that can be more than likely automated and delegated. So start by taking a step back and start by looking at what's taking up the most of your time. Now, if you're, can I cuss? I feel like I'm being held back. But if you come in and you're fucking around on Instagram, 2 hours out of those, a day, I mean, that's pushing you back, right? So be aware of where you're spending the time. If you're spending, if you don't want to spend, I don't know, $1,000 every couple of weeks on a cold caller, and you're thinking that you're saving that money, you're not. You're sacrificing your time for that one piece of capital that you're going to get in a fraction of a deal. So, for example, one of the
Can't
roles,
reiterate that enough.
it's
You know,
it's not a
it's so
payroll
important.
expense. Payroll is not an expense.
It's an
Payroll is
investment.
not an expense. It's an investment. You're buying back your time. That's what's happening. So that's huge. One of
Love that.
the positions that takes up the most time is cold calling. Why? Because we're calling 10,000 people. We're just sitting there and waiting for that thing to go on. Boom, boom, boom. Um, this is how kind of like the numbers are broken down, right? And I'll use just a brief example. If you're doing the cold calling and you reach out to 1,000 people, right? You're gonna spend, I don't know, 6 hours doing that. All right. So from that point, you get it qualified. Maybe out of those 1,000 people, 100 are going to raise their hand. They're going to say, I'm interested, right? Now you have 100 leads. So you have your lead manager in that role. That lead manager is only talking to 100 leads. They're not talking to 1,000. Now, after they get pre-qualified, 10 get pre-qualified, go over to acquisitions. Your acquisition is talking to 10 people. So at the end of the day, like if you're looking at making deals, what's your highest and best? Matt, if you're good at closing, look at talking to 10 people as opposed to 1,000. How do you do that? You plug a couple of cold callers in. You can, I mean, start with one. You don't have to bring in a bunch of people in. Start with one, get a feel for that, see how that works. I mean, it takes a while to get to that point where you delegate your business effectively, but it's totally doable. Start with the don't let go of the income generating activities. Like those are yours. Right now, you're at a level one company. So when you're in a level one company, income generating activities are a priority, and then plug people into the stuff that can be kind of handed down because of the time issue. Yeah, but it's gonna
So
take a
yeah,
while.
and I like to refer to the income activities as being so simple as three simple things, guys: marketing, making offers, and following up. Right?
Oh yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. So
Yep.
a lot of
So I
people like to outsource the acquisitions, but really the way I like to look at it is outsource the jobs that you don't want to do, or B, they're the jobs that are the low paying jobs. So like
Right.
personally, I like running appointments. So I've outsourced, most of the things in my business other than that. And I tell my team, hey, your job is to market and set appointments for me and send offers and do the follow-up and do all the things that I don't want to do. The closing
Yep.
coordination, the funding of the deals and whatever it is. I just want to go run appointments. So Matt, figure out what your passion is. Like there's got to be one or two things that you probably really enjoy doing in the business. Hopefully.
well,
Yeah.
I know
Hopefully.
Matt personally. So he's actually one of my coaching students, and I will say this, and I don't want to particularly call Matt out here, but I know Matt well enough to know that he's doing activities that he doesn't need to do. He's operating. He's got a way, an ability to remove himself from his business if he just keeps a few things on how he's doing things. But some of us we get in the habit of doing all the work. We get in the
Yeah.
habit of making it harder than it needs to be. I think we start to get comfortable in the struggle, and we tend not to make the decisions necessary to pull us out of that. And so Matt's actually in a position where he could, if he handled how his money's deployed in the projects a little differently, he could reinvest it in a team or marketing. There's a few things that he could do. So I guess adding to what everybody has said, I would just say don't make things harder than they need to be. And
Right.
don't operate from, and I want to use this gently, but don't operate from a broke mentality or broke mindset.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's what I got.
I love
100%.
it. That's a great. I love it. Great answer. All right, Kirk's got one. Interested in how sales training is automated. So not exactly sure, what he means with that specifically, but I would think that coming from my perspective, he's seeing Raphael say, "Hey, I'm only working, 90 minutes a week on my business." At some point, Raphael had to train his lead manager and his acquisition guys. But the beautiful thing, though, Kurt, is once you have trained one or two people in your organization, and then you bring on a third person or a fourth person, guess who's going to train those people? Hopefully not you. And that
Yeah.
right there is the automated sales training part of it. No sales training is truly automated, guys. You have to teach your people. Raphael said it really, really earlier to look for certain things. What was the 4 or 5 things that you had mentioned? You know, condition of the property, motivation,
Price,
timeline,
right?
yeah.
But yeah, that's basically what we're looking for when it comes to sales, right? And then we're gonna figure out what the problem is, and then we're gonna offer a solution to those people. That's very, very, 10,000 feet, of course.
I just want to say, I think it's the last thing as well that should be outsourced, depending on where you're at in your business, because the sales, as we all know, is the $1 million skill, right? It's the number one thing that makes money in our business. So you should only be outsourcing it in 3 ways: someone that's better than you, someone that's as good as you, or 80% of you, in my opinion. So everyone wants to outsource that first, and I just don't think it can be done.
The reason why I like to break things down into different stages is because you need different type of people for each one of the roles. Your lead manager has to be super patient. They have to be willing to put up with a lot of like the dreadiness of getting through the leads. When your acquisitions person needs to move fast, a lot of times, most often than not, you don't have the same type of personality, or I'm sorry, those two personalities in the same person. So you have to understand like where to plug it in. You're talking about sales automation. Again, it's coming in, through the marketing and then creating that pipeline to come through. Now, one thing that you can start to keep in mind, when you're building your business, is to reverse engineer. See it this way. For example, I like Loom. Loom is a super cheap software that you can screen record and whatnot.
Loom is great. Yeah. Love Loom.
When you're going through something new, Kurt, when you're going through something new and you have like a new process, a new protocol, you figure out a new way to do something that's new to you, just put it on the video. Next time when somebody asks you that's in your team, hey, how do I do this? Send them over to the video. Just save yourself 20 minutes. Do that. I took that to the next level, because I do coaching and I have all my stuff housed in Kajabi, right? So I have a Kajabi account for my coaching programs. Now I have a Kajabi account for the training for my company, for my internal team. So my team has Kajabi access, and I lay down my trainings, like for acquisitions, a training for Dispo. I lay them down like almost like in a course format, but it's just for my internal use. It's just for the company, right? It's relevant to my CRM, to our process, to everything. But you can start to reverse engineer and start recording every time you have something new. Just put it on video and then start building this video vault. If you're talking about how to build the training program, that's how you do it. As you're going through the process. As you're going through the process. Yeah.
Just basically video your screen, the process that you already do in your business.
Yeah, which could be anything, any process.
Record your screen and talk.
Record it.
Over it.
Absolutely. Yep. So Matt says, I have a fearful mindset thinking if I'm not the one making the initial call, I feel like the seller will lose interest in selling, right? It's obviously works having a team. So check this out, Matt. I have a lead manager. He's been with me for about 6 years. He's a VA. He's in the Philippines. His name's Dennis. He's probably watching right now. He's a rock star. I love him. He's a friend. And he basically handles and manages all the leads in my business. Now, I empower Dennis to act as if he is a partner or an owner in this business, and not just, somebody that works for me as one of the owners. And he makes all the inbound calls come to him. He does a lot of the outbound. He does all the follow-up. But the point that I'm trying to make is sometimes I'll go run an appointment. And again, that's really what I like to do. So I have people, help me with all the other things. But I'll go run an appointment and I'll show up. And, if you're not aware, my name is David Dodge. And I'll show up and I'll say, hey, I'm Dave. I'm here to view the house. And they say, well, where's Dennis? I thought Dennis was coming. Right? Because Dennis was basically the face and the voice of the company. And it's kind of funny because sometimes people will get a little disappointed because Dennis is the one that built all that rapport with them and basically told them that we were going to be able to help them and, provide them a solution, but we needed to come see the property. So I show up and I'm the owner. I'm the guy that's going to be writing the check to buy the house and sign the contract, of course. But often they kind of get a little disappointed until I tell them Dennis works with me and or for me, and that we're a team, and then they start to lighten up to it. But the reason I'm saying this, I had that exact mindset, fearful mindset of thinking I needed to be the one making those initial calls, and in some cases running those appointments, right? So on and so forth. But if you empower your team right? They're going to be just as good as you if you help train them. It's not going to happen overnight. You're going to have to give it some time.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
How come, and maybe you do you not get Dennis to position you to go out? Like, does he not do a handover, say, hey, David's coming out? Like,
Yeah, sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. It just depends.
right.
Yeah, sometimes they'll be expecting me. Other times it's just extra to try to explain that someone else is coming out. Yeah, so when I'm out there, I'm a people person. I like talking to people. That's why I've outsourced all of it except for that. And most people would do the opposite. Most people would outsource that and say, I don't want to run appointments. That's time consuming. Well, that's really the only thing I enjoy doing. If I can go run 1 or 2 appointments in a day and maybe spend another 20 or 30 minutes helping the rest of my team, make those offers and, whatever it may be, that's really, what I enjoy to do. That's a great question though, Gavin. Like, that's something that we could essentially work on a little bit, is have Dennis position me as the owner, you know what I'm saying? So they're not expecting him. But I think the main point though is empower your people. All right. And mistakes are going to get made. You're going to make mistakes. Your team is going to make mistakes, but empower them. Let them know that mistakes are natural and they're part of the process. And the quicker you can make a couple of these mistakes, and then like you guys just said, review. At the end, review it. Hey, how could we have done this better? Why did we make this mistake? How do we prevent from making this mistake again? And then you move on. But you got to let go of that mindset of having complete control. If you don't, you'll never get to 90 minutes a week.
Matt, if I let me throw something in there for Matt. It's a classic edification process, right? Lead manager is talking, and we do it even when we hand out from acquisitions to dispo. We edify dispositions. When the lead manager is going to hand out something from lead to prospect and send it over to acquisitions, we'll edify acquisitions. And what that sounds like, it's just a simple, it's a very simple statement. I'm doing here. I'm in charge of getting the putting the information together. Now, my acquisitions person, who's Dan, my acquisitions manager, he's going to be reaching out. I mean, he knows everything about the market, the ins and outs. He's very well versed. He knows how to structure the deal, and he's a rock star at understanding how to give you the best solution that you're looking for. So he's going to be reaching out to you. It doesn't have to be a half a page spiel or anything. Just a quick little introduction and giving them the edifying whoever that next point of contact is going to be, telling them that they're in good hands because you already built rapport. So whatever you say is going to connect, right? Better than if it's just a cold showing up. But edifying that person, that next person, and then giving them how the process of that that's going to happen. Like, he's going to call you, he's going to show up to your door, he's going to do something like that. When you get rid of surprises with sellers, that goes a long way. But it's not if they're going to lose interest in selling, they were not interested in the first place. It's that's the thing.
Yeah, I want to hit on that. So edification, most people probably don't even realize what that is or the power of edification. And what edification really is passing the power. So
exactly.
It's almost a game, and I hate to say it that way, but if I go, hey, Raphael's, he is awesome. Like, you are in good hands. He's going to take really good care of you. I'm passing my power to him, and then he takes on that individual. And he goes back. He says, "Man, you've been talking to Don. Don's incredible. He really works well with our clients, and blah blah blah. You were in great hands. I'm so glad you had the opportunity to work with Don." And then it's like suddenly these people feel like, oh my goodness, like I'm working with a great team, and these are great individuals, and I'm so lucky, right? You create this almost FOMO opportunity, and people don't realize how powerful that is. We don't do that in our space enough. We don't do that amongst each other enough, and I don't think we teach our teams to do that enough. But it is so impactful and so powerful when you do it properly, and your team has buy-in and they understand why they're doing it. You'd be amazed at how much further you're going to go.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. The exact phrase that we use, it closes off like this. But yeah, so we'll do an edification of the next person, and we always tell them, listen, you still have my contact information. I'm not gone. If you have any questions, you can always call me. You know that. But from this point forward, Dan's going to be running point on acquisitions just because he has all the information on the market. But I'm still here if you need me. So it's not like you're cutting, your lead manager is cutting themselves out of the picture. They already have that rapport. You might as well use it in the future if you need it, right? But you're building up on it. You're creating another leg to that rapport connection, to that edification. And edification is huge, 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 huge. Same thing. We'll edify the title company. What title company are you going to go with? Oh, Julie. Julie, yeah, she's been in the business for 30 years. I'm telling you, that lady knows how to get rid of anything that, maybe clouding titles. That lady knows it all. She's an expert. If you need to get hold of me, I'm still here, so we'll still be in touch. But she's gonna be running point on the title stuff because that's her street, that's her track. And I mean, that just treating it like that, it goes a long, long way. Yeah, and I completely agree with you, Don. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. All right, boys. I can't see a
Awesome.
clock. I don't want to eat up too much time for everybody. Where are we at time wise?
We're gonna
42.
Yeah.
42 minutes.
We're gonna get ready to
All
go.
right.
I know we've got to hit lunch. We've got to get.
Yeah, let's wrap it up, guys. We don't have to go
All right.
keep going by any means. And it was a little impromptu. Raphael, thank you so much for coming on today, man. Again, super grateful for your time.
Appreciate the invite.
We really, really appreciate you, man. This has been an awesome episode. And anybody that's interested in learning more about Raphael, your coaching, your systems, drop a little bit of info for us real quick, and then we'll wrap it up.
The easiest way to get a hold of me is probably Instagram, Rafael Cortez CEO. My YouTube channel is the same same name, Rafael Cortez CEO. You can find me there. I drop a lot of videos on a regular basis on wholesaling and business development, everything in place. So yeah, that's probably the best way. If you guys want a link to that script that I was talking about, just shoot me a DM and I'll send it over to you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to take you up on that. And guys, probably, later today or maybe first thing tomorrow, we'll actually get that added over to the Coffee with Closers Live website, where we have all of the, we have a lot of tips and tricks over there and resources. So we would love to add that. Raphael, thanks again for coming on today. Much appreciated.
Thanks,
Signing off, guys.